Hello there and welcome to Mr. Iyer's Digital Dialogue. We are all about using technology to solve everyday problems. And, of course, your host is none other than Mr. Iyer himself, an expert in all things SaaS and the digital world.
Welcome to the next episode of the Fractional Series, and today we are talking to a Fractional Chief Revenue Officer.
So welcome to Mr. Iyer's Digital Dialogue, everyone. And as a part of the Fractional Series, we have got another expert who is going to be with us. He's Neil Weitzman. I hope I pronounced your name right.
Got it.
So today we are thrilled to have a very special guest. Neil is the founder of X and a true expert in go-to-market strategies and revenue growth with over 25 years of experience in B2B SaaS technology and data business. Neil has driven numerous companies, successes guiding them through various growth stages. But Neil's impact goes beyond just business growth. He is also a co-founder of PORCH, an exclusive community for immigrant entrepreneurs, and he's deeply involved in several professional networks, including Pavilion and Sales Assembly. And known for his POP principles, passion, optimism, and perseverance, and Neil is here to share his insights on building efficient go-to-market motions, fractional power of community, business growth. So we have an ocean of information available with Neil now. So thank you very much, Neil, for doing this.
I mean, first of all, thank you so much for having me. And wow, I need to fix that bio so it doesn't sound so arrogant. It sounded great, and I don't feel like those things. You said the word expert, and I just kind of feel like we're all experts and have our own superpowers. So I'm honored to be here to learn from you.
Yeah, excellent. So let me start by a simple thing. We are in the world of fractionals, and you are a fractional CRO. So how does it differ from a full-time CRO position?
Yeah, great question. And it's an important question because a lot of people, I think, confuse this. And not only that, some people who might have been going down the path of a quote unquote fractional and had a bad experience, maybe just, the person who they were working with wasn't
Exactly.
For me, and I think there isn't one perfect answer, to be honest. I mean, we all can choose to engage the way that works for us and our client. But I can probably best answer that in how I see it and how I engage. For me, a fractional CRO is exactly the same as a regular full-time CRO, but the only difference is that it's not full-time 5 days a week.
Right.
So when I engage, if you were the CEO of the company and you would say to me, "Hey, Neil, what's this look like? How does this work?" Generally, the way I do it is I say, "I want you to think of me as your full-time CRO. The only constraint you and I have is how much time I have to do that. But I want you to ask me to do all the things that you would normally get your sales and revenue leader to do." For me, that seems very like a very simple way to think about it. Whereas a consultant, of course, has a lot more of scope of work and, a project to deliver, and there's set deliverables. So to me, that's kind of the main difference. And maybe I'll pause there because I could just ramble on about this forever.
I correlate with this because I was working with a client. He was a startup. I mean, he hired me as a fractional CRO. Now, I mean, I don't know, you get this a lot. I don't know. The moment you say you're a fractional CRO, even though they look at you as a full-time resource or a part-time resource, they want results in 2 months' time.
Sure.
Do they, because they say, "Hey, you're a CRO, you need to start giving me revenue from the next month onwards because you're a resource." I mean, does that happen quite often with you?
Yeah, I mean, yes, I think that happens way more often in, let's say, earlier stage startups or new CEOs, new founders who are learning just like we all are. And I don't mean to criticize them, but they learn. And any, let's say any experienced CEO knows that things don't happen overnight and know that no matter how good you and I are, it is unlikely we're going to change the world tomorrow. It takes a lot of effort and time and setup and foundational building, and every company is different. But I don't blame, the inexperienced CEO on that. To me, that's them learning. It's our job to bring it in. So we need to have an honest conversation with them and say, "I know you want results tomorrow. So do I. Here's the reality, and here's all the things we need to do to build this properly for the long term. And if they resonate with that, then there might be a good fit. And if they say,
Yep.
no, Neil, I don't care what you say, I need results tomorrow. Well, I usually don't take that gig. And I usually, it might not be a good fit because it's probably
Correct, correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's good to set expectations, right? I mean,
Right.
that's what we all need to do. In the introduction, I mentioned, I mean, I'm very curious to know about the POP
Sure.
principle, passion,
Oh.
optimism, and results. How do these principles guide your approach to revenue growth?
Yeah, it's a great question. When I got those from someone years and years and years ago, so I wasn't the original of that quote or that line. Loved it. I wish I remembered who it came from because I would give them the proper credit. But years and years ago, I just saw someone define themselves as that, and it really, really resonated with me on who I feel I am. So I kind of took it and now use that as a way to describe myself. To be honest, I never thought of it until you just said that, as how I approach revenue growth. It was more a line as to who I am as a human being. And I feel like I show that in everything I do, my conversations, my engagements, business and personal.
Right.
But now that you asked that question, yeah, of course because it's who I am, it's how I approach my engagement and revenue growth and how I help companies. It is all about, passion and perseverance. And those are very key words in any, I think those should be keywords in any successful company that's looking to grow.
Correct. Yeah, excellent. I mean, when I saw your profile and when we started talking, you worked with various companies from SaaS to healthcare to media.
Sure.
What's the most surprising challenge you have faced as a fractional CRO that you didn't see it coming? It took you by surprise.
Oh gosh, that's a good question. That I didn't see coming. Oh, this is going to sound terrible. I don't think I can't think of anything off the top of my head that I didn't see coming.
Sure.
I mean, let's be honest, I'm old. I've seen a lot.
Don't worry.
I'm young at heart and I'm getting older and I'm experienced is maybe better than saying old. But I love that. And I use that to my advantage. I'm young at heart and passionate. So no, I have no worries about who I am at all. But yeah, I think everything that I do experience, I generally expect. I mean, putting aside like personality issues or things that come out always, those are always like, how do you deal with a person who's doing X, Y, Z?
Yeah.
But I go into it with eyes wide open, knowing there's always going to be speed bumps. And I don't think of things as roadblocks. There are always speed bumps. There's always a way to get around it. It's just how do you find the answer and work backwards? I don't experience a lot that's completely unexpected. To me, it's all about preparation and, like you said, expectation setting.
Right. Absolutely. So most of the companies, they have some, challenges you must have observed in early stages or medium-sized businesses when it comes to revenue growth. How do you tackle that? I mean, when they come and talk about, revenue growth, they say, Neil, I want to look at growing from 0 to 1 or 1 to 10 or 10 to 5. How do you look at it because you are managing multiple clients and you need to put your thought process. I'll come to that question later. How do you balance your multiple clients? For the common challenges with early stage and medium-sized companies when it comes to revenue growth.
Yeah, great. And I think my answer, 5 years ago, 10 years ago would have been slightly different. The world has changed a lot, as we know.
Yeah.
The things that always should have been really important, i.e. human relationships and creativity and passion and personality, always have been important, but they lost steam or importance or proper training around that over the past number of years because of technology. And I think ironically enough, because of the explosion of technology and AI and the fact that doing cold emails as one example is so darn easy, and God forbid outbound cold calls from AI scares the hell out of me. But the fact that those things are doable and easy to do has, ironically enough, emphasized how ineffective they can be or how dangerous they can be and not providing a quality output. And therefore, it's come back to this enthusiasm for actually being different and standing out, just using our personalities and creativity.
Yes.
So a lot of what I'm talking about and working on with different companies I engage with, yes, we do cold outbound. Yes, we figure out what the right strategy is. Of course we do. Think about strategically. But the main point being is whatever the right motion is, whether it's cold outbound, warm, customer referrals, events, I mean, any combination of all these different, there's 25 different options. If you can't stand out, if you can't break through the noise, if you can't be creative, then I don't believe it's just going to work ultimately. I don't care how good your product is. You
Correct.
don't have a chance to build relationships and talk if you can't find a way to connect in a way that people want to talk to you and want to notice your email and notice your call. So and there's lots of great things we could dive into there, but pause there for the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. And when you're managing small clients, mid-sized clients, I manage a couple of clients, and managing multiple clients, how do you balance it? And you're constantly jumping into new environments, new team. I mean, is there any secret sauce for you to quickly build trust and alignment with your new clients?
Yeah, great. I'd say the first way I build trust, obviously, is just being very authentic. And when I first meet the prospect or the CEO, and we have a conversation about trust, right? Like I literally call it out and say, we need to enjoy working together. And I don't want you to hire me, and I don't want to work for you unless we actually think this is going to be fun, because life's short and let's enjoy this. I think they appreciate that, and usually that resonates well. I also say, I also call out the word trust, and I say, you need to trust me 100%. And if you don't, then we shouldn't go forward at all. And I understand you just met me. So what do you want me to do to show you trust? I let them talk to past customers of mine. I give them references. I give them anything they want to make sure that before they sign a contract, they can truly look in the mirror and say, I trust Neil 100%. Because I call it out and I say, minute that you, Mr. CEO, Mrs. CEO, the minute that you say to me, hey, Neil, I don't think you've been working hard enough or giving me your time, we're done. Because that means you don't trust me. And I call that out up front and set expectations properly around that. And when I do that, I've never, ever had a problem, right? I have forgotten to do that once, and I had a problem. And I know a lot of people who end up with problems and issues, and it's all because they didn't talk about it and call it out at the beginning.
Excellent. I think so. I have a questionnaire. I have a couple of meetings before I go ahead and say yes to them, because I need to feel comfortable. Both needs to feel comfortable. It's a two-way process, and you rightly pointed out. Let's talk about your success. I mean, you have a lot of success. You've been the fractional for some years, and share maybe one of the success stories and what were the key factors that led to the success of that engagement?
Jeez. I guess I'd say, to give an example, there's a success with a client I have. I won't, anyone can look at my LinkedIn, but I just won't call out all the names.
No, absolutely.
That is, I think, a success because we are, it's not a story about like, oh yeah, I helped them, get from 1 million to 100 million. And, to me, most of that is nobody does that. There's not one person who does that. That's a company. I don't like that type of bragging, that type of, calling myself out like that. I feel I'm just a piece of the puzzle to help a company grow. And in my case, much of it is earlier stage or early to mid stage, which means it's about building the foundation for future growth, right? It's not about scaling today. It's about making sure that we have the right process, the right tools, the right people, the right training, the right culture for revenue and sales, i.e. it's a team sport, not any one person. To me, that's a lot of what I'm doing. And I love doing that because no company is successful unless you spend all the time and hard discussions early on to do that. It's really defining, WGLL. What does good look like? Right. And most companies don't understand that. And so there's a lot of things to do to try to learn what does good look like. And that's what is kind of the rallying cry of everything we talk about. What does good look like? Do we know it? Can we document it? And once we document it, we can then repeat it and grow it and ultimately eventually scale it. So the success is I have a client that I'm still working with that we have renewed like 4 times, keeping me on board because it's going very, very well. And we've had ups and downs, right? For sure we have. Every company does. But the fact that the CEO sees the value and the growth we're getting in terms of building the foundation, in terms of teaching the team, in terms of changing the culture of the company to be customer focused, revenue driven, and starting to get those wins and understanding what good looks like. To me, that's the success. And there's lots of examples of those, but I guess I'll just end it.
Excellent. I think so. These are real, information and gold mine for everybody. Revenue officer, this term, this has been going on for, when I last realized when somebody offered me this role, full-time role, long time back, people were confused. What exactly is a chief revenue officer? So for whether it is fractional or it is full-time, according to you, what does a chief revenue officer does? Because I remember when I took up this role, I used to manage sales, I used to manage the marketing department, I used to manage customers, because I believe that a chief revenue officer plug the leakages in all the 3 departments. According to you, what exactly it is? People are still confused about what exactly it is.
Yeah, I agree with you. So to me, I don't understand why this is confusing. There's the official definition of chief revenue officer that I've seen everywhere and I've always been taught and teach is everything to do with revenue and growth of the business. So sales, what we would traditionally call the word sales, marketing, and customer success. All 3 of those are customer facing, responsible for growing the brand, growing the business, bringing in revenue. To me, in larger companies, the CRO owns all 3 of those. That doesn't mean they do all 3 every day, because they generally will have people like a VP of sales or a VP of marketing, or even a CMO that might report to the CRO. To me, that is the definition of a CRO. Now, at the end of the day, they're just labels and titles, meaning, if I run a company, I'm going to call the titles whatever I want to call the titles, whatever I think works best, and, to each their own. But to me, that's the definition of a CRO. If you are in a company and you are only owning the sales function, theoretically, or in my opinion, that should be called VP of sales or SVP of sales, or head of revenue, or whatever you want to call it, but it's not CRO in my opinion.
Exactly. Brilliant. So you're a fractional CRO. How do you decide, which company I should work with? Is there any criteria? Like, for example, I say my sweet spot is, let's say, 1 to 10 or 10 to $1 million. Or is there a certain technology you would want to work with? Or is there a certain industry you would want to? Is there a criteria for you?
My bullseye, or the place that I maybe enjoyed the most, is B2B SaaS, generally early to mid stage. I enjoy that. Love early stage because I really enjoy building. I enjoy working really closely with the CEO. I enjoy kind of coaching the CEO at the same time. I just have a lot of fun doing that. I feel it's a superpower of mine. I also take some engagements where they are larger companies, and I might not necessarily be the fractional CRO, but I'm used for coaching or training in different areas. But from a traditional fractional CRO perspective, it's usually earlier to mid-stage companies. Ironically enough, I have a client now, which I didn't kind of go out looking for, it just sort of happened, who of all things is a workman's compensation insurance company. And I'm having an absolute ball working with them, and they are the nicest people in the world. And I'm learning a ton, and I feel like I'm adding a lot of value. But I never in a million years would have said, I'm a workman's compensation insurance CRO, but now that I'm doing well at it, I might go looking for some more. So, your ICP can change, right? Because a lot of our skills are transferable from industry to industry. But yes, if you needed to nail me down on a bullseye, it would be B2B SaaS.
Okay. Let's talk about PORCH, which is very close to your heart. I know it's your initiative. How was your journey, that you started building this community? Where did it all start? Where did the idea came?
Wow, I'm honored you asked because that is a passionate part of my life and my son's life. So my son is the co-founder of PORCH, Hunter. He is absolutely unbelievable, and I don't just say that because he's my son. I could look anyone in the eye and say I wouldn't pick another partner over him. He's unbelievable in what he does for our company. But we started PORCH for, I guess, a few reasons. One, we're in Canada. We were brought up, and I'd like to say we have the DNA that we believe immigration is a good thing for our country. You know, there's a right way and a wrong way to do immigration, and sometimes, even though we have a very open immigration policy in Canada, that doesn't mean we do it well all the time. Often we, when I say we, the royal we of Canada and the Canadian government maybe has policies and speed bumps that are way too difficult, or policies that, in my opinion, don't necessarily treat people fairly. You know, we all probably know all the backdrop of how hard it is sometimes for an immigrant coming to, at least in Canada, probably similar in many countries, you know, to be treated the same and to have equal opportunity of jobs and be given an opportunity. Like, without going too deep on that and getting into politics, it's just a very passionate area of ours. And we believe that that just shouldn't happen. We believe anyone who is coming to this country needs to be treated as an absolute human being and given the same opportunities as everyone else. Otherwise, why are we letting them come if we're not going to treat them the same and fairly? So we believe deeply in that. That's always kind of who we've been in our DNA growing up and still is. So that's just a big passionate part. The second part is I've always been involved in entrepreneurship. I've always been involved in helping entrepreneurs build and grow, just like I do now, but I've been doing that. I've been a startup advisor for many years. And the third part is the word community. I have an experience in helping and building communities, and I feel incredibly strong that communities, when done properly, real communities, not marketplaces, not Slack groups or WhatsApp groups where there's just people.
Right.
I mean, a community is a culture. It's a group of people that want to be together, help one another, and are there for the same mission.
Yes.
And when done properly, I believe a community has tremendous value for anyone in their personal life and business life. I don't care what color you are. I don't care what religion you are. I don't care where you are in your journey. Well, you know who I am, and I'm 50 years old. Don't tell anyone, 51. And I get a tremendous value out of community every single day, and I'm in various communities. We had a thesis that immigrant entrepreneurs who are coming to Canada, and now we're also in the US, if they had access to a properly built and run community to support them, that it would make their journey as an immigrant entrepreneur exponentially easier. It doesn't mean perfect, and we can't solve everything. But I do believe that good people helping one another can help them in a tremendous way. And that was our thesis. And we set out to prove it. We asked many, many immigrant entrepreneurs if, are we right? Is that true? If we had this when you came to the country 5 years ago, 8 years ago, would it have made a difference? And every single one of them said, heck yes, a million times over. The challenges I had would have been made so much easier or even gone if I just had people to talk to, people to connect with, people to tell me how to do things, people to not be so lonely. I needed friends. I mean, there's a million things. So we built it. And we built it. It's been going for 1.5 years now. We've got hundreds of different members from around the world. I think like 60 different countries. It's going very, very, very well. It's an exclusive community for immigrant entrepreneurs in or coming to Canada or the US. And it's probably the most important thing I shouldn't speak for Hunter because he's still young, but for me, I'm old. I think it's the most important thing I've done in my life in terms of career and business. All the things I've done before are, sure, I'm helping CEOs sell their product, but I'm not changing any lives. I'm not helping anyone truly human. I'm honored to be able to do what we're doing at PORCH. It's a very heartfelt mission for us. And when an immigrant entrepreneur comes and says, well, Neil, this has really helped and changed our lives, I often break into tears. Like, it's really amazing.
Excellent. That's amazing. People should reach out to you, especially if anybody is there in Canada. I'm sure they will reach out to you. Before we go, we have added a new section, Neil. We have added a fun section, but before that, one last serious question. What is the advice for people who are getting into fractionals? one advice you want to give?
Gosh, one advice, just one. I would say, so I just did a LinkedIn post the other day talking about where I get my leads from.
Yeah.
And maybe I'll refer to that, so I talked about a few different areas. Like the hardest thing I think for fractionals is finding business, right?
Yes.
I mean, of course, doing a good job is fundamentally important because you're not going to find a lot of business unless you do a good job for the one that you have.
Yeah.
So, chicken or the egg, I guess. But at the end of the day, there's constant discussion in the groups I'm in and the courses I run, or the course I run called befractional.org, is all about, great, I feel like I know how to be a CRO, but now I'm my own business. So how do I find clients?
Correct.
And I would say the most important thing there is to just continue to get involved and build your network. I know cold outreach can work. I get it. I'm not saying you shouldn't try it. I'm not a huge fan for me and for my ICP. But I'm not telling you not to do it. I know a lot of people where it works well for it, but I think it's more important to just get involved in communities, right? So I'm a big, passionate supporter, ambassador, leader in Pavilion. Pavilion is an incredible community for revenue leaders. Might not be for everyone, but if you're involved on the sales or marketing or customer success side, or you're a CEO or founder, I think you should check it out. I get incredible value from it, and I put my hand up and I'm part of it in different ways. And not only do I learn there, but I meet so many incredible people, some of which lead to new relationships, new opportunities, new leads.
Correct.
Whether it's from them directly or 3 friends away from them. And I would say get involved, volunteer to do things, lead communities, be in groups, do talks, teach a course. There's a million things you can do to get your name, your brand, and show people how kind you are. And I promise that will come back to help you. It might not help you tomorrow because these things they're not like lead gen strategies, like clicking on an ad.
Correct.
Thinking for the long term, if you're sitting in your house and sending cold emails and saying, why isn't anyone hiring me? I'm not surprised. Like, you got to do things and get involved. And I would say that's the number one thing to build your brand. And when you start doing that, people are going to say, oh, I heard of a fractional CRO. He does LinkedIn posts and I saw him in Pavilion. Maybe you should reach out to him. Neil, that's his name. And all of a sudden I get someone calling me saying, someone mentioned your name and I should talk to you. You're like, it's not rocket science. It really isn't. But it takes time and energy and effort, and you have to be passionate about wanting to help and wanting to get involved.
Correct. I mean, in India, fractional is still picking up. So I'm building a community where I'm coaching people on fractional. That's one thing which I've started. I'm writing a book on fractional, a fractional playbook. Probably in a month's time, probably I should have that published. So I mean, these are the ways you want to help people, right? I mean, you're right. I mean, there are people who need support and there are people who require the support. They don't know how to get clients. That's the biggest challenge is what I've seen. Everybody wants to become a fractional, but they don't know how to do it. So that's something. Excellent. Yeah.
So I was saying, we run a course, me and a couple partners, called befractional.org, www.befractional.org, where we help people either build or grow their fractional or consulting business. And we talk about all these things. So it's a great course. Encourage anyone to check it out who wants to learn.
Yeah, absolutely. I would. Definitely, I would. One last thing. If you have to go back and start your career with all the knowledge you have now, what advice would you give your young Neil, who's 21, 22?
So I worked for like 25 years or whatever, for someone else. In corporations, and I'm grateful for every day. I supported my family. I did fine. I moved up to executive levels. I enjoyed my career. However, and I think I'm in many ways, the successes that I have had have been in large part because of that learning in, let's call it, the corporate life. I think everyone should learn about what it's like to work for other people.
Yeah.
That said, I think I would advise myself to go out on my own and be my own boss and company much sooner than I did. I recognize that I am okay. I'm good at what I do now because of that, in part because I experienced. but I would say I probably didn't need as much of it. So I probably would have just started being an entrepreneur and building my own business much sooner in my career, because the last bunch of years where I've been doing that have been the best of my life, both financially, enjoyment, learning. Everything I'm doing now is kind of my sweet spot. I feel 20 again. I just wish I was doing it a long time ago.
Great. Excellent. We're going to do a fun rapid fire question.
Okay.
4 or 5 questions. I'll ask you quickly. You have to answer one word. So let's start. Are you ready?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay. One word that describes your leadership style.
Passion.
Favorite SaaS tool that you can't live without.
Lavender.ai.
The best piece of advice you have ever received.
Oh, wow. Take a breath and think before speaking.
Excellent. A morning person or a night person?
All of the above.
Okay. One industry you would love to work in that you haven't yet. Quick.
Sports management.
Okay. If you weren't a CRO, what would you be doing?
Entrepreneur. Well, I'm kind of an entrepreneur. I don't know. I'd be a billionaire entrepreneur in a tech business. I don't know.
Okay. Coffee or tea to kickstart your day?
Coffee.
Okay. Last, favorite way to unwind after a long day?
Binge a TV show or a movie.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Neil. It was brilliant. You have been amazing. I'm sure the listeners will take a lot of it. Thank you very much for coming.
No, thank you. That was a lot of fun.
That's a wrap on this episode of Mr. Iyer's Digital Dialogue. Before we close out today's episode, a quick reminder to all our listeners. If you found value in today's insights and discussions, be sure to subscribe to Mr. Iyer's Digital Dialogue on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and other leading podcast platforms. By subscribing, you'll stay updated with the latest episodes and continue to delve deep into the ever-evolving world of digital dynamics with Mr. Iyer. Thank you for tuning in, and we look forward to having you join us for our next episode. Until then, keep the dialogue going and keep pushing the boundaries of digital innovation. Farewell, and stay curious.